Put on your mental track shoes and run with me. This is the Powwow with Myra. Welcome to the Powwow, Sonny.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you for making the time to be here today.
I'm thrilled to
Um,
have the opportunity. Thank you.
yes. So to kick things off, I'd like to start off by learning a little bit more about you.
Sure.
Where do you come from, and what do you do?
Well, I grew up in Arlington, and I went to school here and played football, and uh,
And I'm just gonna put this
was
right
very sure, yeah, was very involved in the city and in the school.
here.
And then I had an opportunity to go to Abilene Christian University on a football scholarship,
Okay.
and so I went there and played football, and I went there married with a small child, which I talk about in my book, but one of the first challenges of my life was going to college with a family
Mm,
as a freshman, and had a great opportunity at the school to get my degree in management with a minor in communications. And then I went back to Abilene Christian and got my master's degree in psychology,
okay.
human behavioral theory, uh, and research methods.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like the right background for a real estate agent, does it?
It's quite the background.
Well, while I was in college, while I was at university, I needed to make money for my family, and a local business man there named W.R. Dick Kendrick, Kendrick Realty and Associates. I ran into him. I tell a story in the book about it. I ran into Mr. Kendrick, and he uh, offered the management job of an apartment complex to me, which I knew nothing about, and that got me into real estate.
Mm.
So my first, at 20 years old, I was given a job managing a 28 unit apartment complex, and that I didn't even know how to balance a checkbook. He saw something in me that I didn't know. I don't know why he thought that, but he gave me the job.
What
And
what do you think it was?
uh,
If
you
you were to
know,
guess.
I talk a lot in my studies and my writings and my teachings about intuitive thinking, about how people form opinions internally, intrinsically, and then their actions support those opinions, even though they might not consciously be thinking, um, this guy can do a great job or this person can do a great job. And I talk a lot about it in making sales presentations about professionalism is synonymous with value, for example. That when you're highly professional, people intrinsically perceive that you're very professional and therefore you're worth more.
Mm.
And that perceived value allows them to, for some reason, even though they may not know it at the moment, trust you.
Mm.
And that causes people to choose you. So I think Mr. Kendrick, he's deceased now, he's passed away many years ago. But I think he saw something in me. He was very curious why I went to college with a baby. And at the time, I had a small child. How I went to university, was going to school, and how I could play football, go to school, and manage an apartment complex at the same time. But for some reason, he believed I could. And he became my mentor. And I related in the book a number of times about how he saved me
Mm.
a number of times.
A number of times.
Yeah. He helped me get through college and uh, was a great guy.
Mm.
And I never treated him as well as I wish I had. I was always thankful and friendly to him, but I never really appreciated him until I was older. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so that's what got started you to in
Yeah.
real estate.
I think one of the most important things is that people go into a business, whether it's any professional services business, with the idea that it's going to be easy.
Mm.
And very few things in life are easy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some people
Mm-hmm.
are so brilliant and have such personalities and charisma that they can go into real estate and suddenly be hugely successful without any effort. And I think I start out in my book with a story about failure,
Mm.
about me walking in an alley
Mm.
looking for glass bottles so that I could redeem them. Back in those days, we could redeem bottles for money,
Mm-hmm.
and I needed enough money to buy diapers.
Mm.
for my little baby. And it was a very dark time in my life. And I looked up in the sky and uh, swore at God, and almost immediately realized that it wasn't God's fault I was in that position. And of course, made amends. But I think that that story, starting out with a failure and then overcoming that
Mm.
with help of people like Dick Hendrick, was really a lot about my life.
Okay, wow. There's a lot to
A
unpack there.
lot there, and
Just with even like the background or you would say the foundation
sure.
of, who Sonny is today, right? So you were born here in Arlington and you always lived here. You didn't relocate, it sounds like.
Actually, I stayed here in Arlington until I graduated from high school,
Okay.
married,
Okay.
and in high school,
Wow.
yeah, and I that's a long story, I won't go into that, but I was married in high school, and I went to Abilene Christian University on a
Right.
football scholarship with a wife who was expecting, and,
And so
that's how I started my college career.
right, right. So when you're graduating high school, right? Well, you played ball, you played
Mhm.
football. What's going through your mind as you have a wife, you have a baby, and now, you're going to play ball and go to college,
Yeah.
right? Like what's going through your head? Is this something that you planned and you wanted to pursue, or were you just kind of going by the emotions,
Um,
or both?
Myra, you're easy to talk to, and I want you to know that because I'm gonna tell you some things that probably wouldn't say to anyone.
Mm,
But I think I had always been inspired easily. I saw things in life that inspired me, and I was early on inspired to want to be a professional football player.
mm,
I didn't make that, but I came close. Played for a very good team, and in my final season, we won our national championship in football, and I played on that team as a defensive tackle. But I was easily inspired, and I always sought to do more,
mm.
and I always sought to strive for great things. And so, no, when I got married, I knew it was going to be a very tough battle
Mm,
to get to be successful the way I
mm,
wanted to be, and to eventually play professional football. Injuries kept me from doing that. Uh, Lots of injuries, but that's another story.
right.
But I think I found another inspiration, and that was to be highly successful in other ways. And one of those things I was inspired to do was to help people along the way.
Mm,
I always liked helping people. I
mm,
guess you would say I'm a teacher at heart.
mhm.
I like to teach people, and of course, I love to talk, as you can tell. But I think the big thing was that I love to help people.
Okay.
And so I probably, if I wasn't going to be in business, I probably would have been a teacher.
Mm,
I was
okay.
offered a coaching position at Abilene Christian
Mm,
one of my senior year, but I couldn't afford to do that with, by that time, 2 children, and I needed a real job, let's say, that could produce more income because coaching doesn't pay very well, especially back when I graduated from
mm,
university, which was in the early '70s.
okay, okay.
So I'm quite old.
No, I would say, you're well seasoned.
Thanks. That's right. Yeah, it's very well seasoned. Yeah.
Well, and I would highlight well. Okay, so when you're in that alley of that story you just
hmm
mentioned to us,
hmm
how old were you on that
Oh, I
night?
was probably 19.
Okay.
And I was really, it was a very dark place at the time because I had responsibilities. I lived across from the university in a garage apartment, and I had this little baby who was the cutest thing in the world. Her name was Elizabeth, and it's still Elizabeth. And by the way, she's a pre-K teacher now.
Okay,
Yeah,
look
been
at
a
that.
pre-K teacher for 30 years. But when I was in that alley, I needed to find a solution to a problem.
Mm,
And I was inspired at that point to look for something better.
mm,
And I swore at that moment in that alley that I would never again in my lifetime reach a point where I could not take care of my family.
mm.
And that became a driving force in my life from that point forward. And so that caused me to start looking for a better way.
Mm.
And the way I found that was I noticed in the Abilene newspaper a opportunity to be an assistant manager of an apartment complex.
Mm. Okay.
And so that's what got me into that
Okay.
apartment complex.
I was
And
getting
the
there.
reason I took the job was uh, it was free rent
Mm.
and free utilities
Okay.
for being an assistant manager. And so
Right.
I needed to have a place for my family and a
Right.
roof over the head, kind of
Yes.
thing. But when I went there, the gentleman who hired me, his name was David. Uh, that's the name in the book. I changed all the names in the book, many
Okay.
client stories. But David, I couldn't figure out why he offered me the position because I knew nothing. I mean, I didn't know much about apartments.
Mhm.
I didn't have a lot of, he was the manager at the time, didn't have a lot of experience.
Mhm.
I was big and strong.
Mm.
Perhaps that's why. But he offered me the position very quickly and very easily. In fact, I was surprised.
Mm.
And so I took the position. I moved my family into the apartments. And about 2 weeks after accepting the position, uh, David knocked on my door at night. And when I opened the door, I invited him to come in. And he said, "No, Sonny, but here." And he handed me a bunch of books, a stack of stuff. And he just handed it to me. And I was shocked because I thought, what is he doing? He said, "Sonny, I'm leaving. Here's the keys." And there was a pouch filled with apartment keys in this 28-unit apartment complex, and a pouch filled with money, checks and cash, and a checkbook. And he handed it to me and said, I'm leaving. Um, Mr. Kendrick's name is in the here. You need to arrange to get with him tomorrow and tell him that I've left. And he moved out. And the next day I met with Mr. Kendrick, and within 45 minutes, I left there as the manager.
Had you met him before?
Nope.
Mm.
He was a very interesting character from Georgia. Deep, thick Southern drawl, short, very handsome, debonair gentleman, quite wealthy, by the way. He owned apartment complexes, ran commercial real estate and residential real estate.
Mm.
And he became my teacher and my mentor. He taught me almost everything about real estate over the summers when I was going to school, playing football, and having to work in the summer. So I got to sell real estate in the summers
Mm.
instead of doing construction work, which is what most of the players did. So
Right.
that's how I got to Dick Hendry.
Okay. Okay.
David did me a
Wow.
huge favor. I just didn't know it at the time.
Right. Right. It's crazy. There's the law of attraction, and it's like, well, you mentioned how in that alley you said I'm going to do I'm like you basically realized it was up to you, and then you seeked out for answers,
I
or
needed a solution.
you seeked out for a
Yeah.
solution, and literally that was like your vehicle
Yeah.
to
It was the
where.
inspiration. I talk a lot about inspiration. In all my teachings, I talk about
And
inspiration
if you
and
want to
how,
bring this back.
yeah, how inspiration changes your life. You're
Mm.
inspired by, I've always been inspired by views. I've been inspired by little children and beautiful dogs. I've been inspired by many things. And I guess that inspiration that night said, "Sonny, you just have to solve your problem."
Mhm.
And actually, I think that led me to one of the most important things I could tell the audience. Try to help people solve problems.
Mm.
I never thought of real estate as a product sale.
Mhm.
In fact, people would ask me, "Sonny, how do you manage to sell so many homes?" And I would say, "Well, I don't sell homes. I help people solve problems. And as a result, they might buy a home." And so I don't look at it as a product sale. I look at it as helping someone solve a problem. And as a result, I not only help them find the right solution, which
Mhm.
is what I had to do in that alley, but I become a trusted advocate for them because I'm helping them solve a problem, not just selling them something. And that goes to a concept that I talk about, that a client relationship must survive closing.
Mhm.
Now,
Beyond.
you know what I mean by
Like
survive closing?
beyond it?
Well, yeah, look at it this way. In our society, we think of sales as a cycle of you meet someone, um, you get to know them a little bit, you talk to them about your product, you make a presentation, you close a sale, and you thank them. In other words, it's a very ending concept. Well, when I say that the client relationship must survive closing, most people that you work with expect that. They expect you to help them help them find the home, buy the home, close on the home, go to closing, get their keys, and then that's kind of it. They don't really think in terms of a 20-year relationship with a real estate agent.
Right.
They think in terms of, I need to buy a home, and you help them find that home, and they think it's over. No,
Right.
not that you go away and they never talk to you again, but they
Right.
think you've done your job and you've done it well, and so it's over.
Right.
But that's not what real estate's about. Real estate is about having that relationship survive closing,
Mhm.
having that person trust you and want to do business with you and want to refer people to you.
Mhm.
And that's what real estate is about. And that's why to be successful in real estate, because there's so many agents. I mean, there's 3 million agents in the United States. Okay. And if you
Right.
take the population of the United States, right now it's about 330 million, and you divide 3 million into 330 million,
Mhm.
you see that there's a whole lot of real estate people for a small number of people. You know, the National Association of Realtors has 1,520,000 plus people affiliated with it, and they get the right to call themselves realtors.
You're
Okay.
right.
Well, if you take that population of the United States and you divide it by that 1,520,900 and something, and you take those numbers and you say, wait a minute, if there's one real estate agent with NAR for every 209 people in the United States, well, just think, you only have an audience of 209 people who don't have an agent? Everybody wants to sell real estate. And so, how do you make yourself different? How do you get chosen? How do you become the one that they trust and they trust you enough to have a long term relationship with you
Mhm.
where you can help them and their family and, very importantly, their sphere of influence?
Mm.
Reaching their sphere of influence means they have to trust you enough to be willing to share the people that they know, and they don't want to turn those people over to a product salesperson because all they think you're going
Mhm.
to do is try to press them to buy a home.
Right.
So, to trust you, they have to believe that you are putting them first.
Right.
And that's why I refer everything in my book and my practice to consultative selling.
Mm.
And that's the problem solving connection.
Okay.
When you become a consultative salesperson, you become a problem solver. And when you become
Mhm.
a problem solver, you really have become what the connection is that keeps and allows the relationship you form with a client to survive closing.
Mm. Yes. It's funny. One of the first things I was taught when, after getting my real estate license, and getting my first training, I started with Keller Williams.
Yeah, very good company.
One of the trainers said, this is a relationship business. And I hadn't heard that before. And it was not that, like, I didn't really understand that before
Yeah.
until she said it. But the moment she said it, it clicked. I'm like, and for some reason, even like it felt like a lighter weight because I'm like, oh, even better. It is a relationship business. Like everything else, you just have to figure out the how, but the paperwork. But that's a tiny portion. It's a relationship business.
In my process along the pathway of writing this book, I met a young man named Darren. Darren was a very bright young man working at Starbucks. And when he found out that I was a real estate agent, and uh, he asked me, told me he really wanted to go into real estate. And we began to talk. And I began to query as to why he would want to be a real estate agent. I asked him, why do you want to be a real estate agent? And he said, well, first, I want to make a lot of money. And second, I want to be my own boss. Okay? And third, I want to work with people, uh, outside of an office. He didn't say, I want to help people solve problems. I want to help them. He had seen people, real estate agents, driving nice cars, maybe belonging to a country club. And he had a perception of what a real estate agent is. He had no idea that it takes many people who go into real estate over 2 years to become successful in real estate. And he had no idea of what would be involved in the competitive environment, a very competitive environment of real estate. He was going into real estate with misconceptions about
Mhm.
what he would do and how hard it would be. Was he equipped to become a real estate agent? Absolutely not. But he had charisma.
Mm.
He had personality. Very smart, bright young man, but not at all equipped to go into real estate. So he probably, had he gone into real estate at that moment, would have been one of the fatalities.
Mm. Mhm.
Because one, you have to have the ability to go into real estate and survive long enough to learn enough. Have you ever heard the 10,000 hour rule?
Yes.
Okay, well, you know that 10,000 hour rule. Just look at it this way. In a typical year, working 40 hours a week, you will work about 2,000 hours. Well, based upon the 10,000 hour rule, to become a truly professional top agent, it'll take you 5 years. So if you only work like the NAR Association agent profile report for 2021 says the typical agent works about 30 to 35 hours a week. How are you going to do that? Now, do they only work 35 hours a week because they don't know what to do, or is it because they have nothing to do?
Mm.
So you're never going to be successful in real estate unless you can commit yourself to it, probably on a full-time basis. My book is not written for the part-timer.
Mm.
My book is written for the person who wants to build a professional real estate practice, which, by the way, also transfers over to financial planners, to insurance agents, to
Mm.
mortgage brokers, to
Mm.
anyone in the professional services business where client relationships are king. That's what the book is about, is how to build a professional business that will survive the test of time and be successful through good and bad times.
Mm. Okay. And speaking of the
Yeah.
book, let's see. We uh
The architecture of the real estate practice. Yeah.
we also part of, who also Sonny is he is the author, right, of this book. And is it okay if I show
Of
this front
course, yeah.
page?
Uh-huh.
And which is a book about like this. And it's been published, but it's still not out
It'll
yet,
be out
right?
in November. Uh-huh.
November.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's going to be mainly most of the conversations that we have here today, but it's been so good to learn about who you are, and not today, but how you came up, right? And right before we continue diving into this book, I'm just curious to know,
Yeah.
um why did you choose psychology? I'm curious to know, right?
That's a good
Because
point. That's a good question. Yeah.
I'm really curious to know what led you to choose that as your master's degree.
Well, as I mentioned, I'm a human behavioral theorist. I like studying people. I like to watch people and try to understand why they do what they do and why they react the way they react. So I was fascinated with people. I was
Mm,
fascinated with the way people think, and
mm,
and and so from I guess because I minored in communications, and management was my major in undergraduate. I thought, what would give me an understanding of people
mm,
so that I could relate to people and therefore be successful in whatever I chose to do. And so I had a real thirst for knowledge, and I thought that psychology would give me a real good option. So I chose a master's program that was a mixed discipline program.
Mm.
Uh, Also, by the way, I'm a very big believer in education uh, that is more general than necessarily specific down a specific pathway. So, for example, I was not looking for an MBA program where the pathway I would pursue would be in a particular direction, technology, or in a particular marketing, or a particular, but uh, more of a general education. And so I found a program at Abilene Christian, which I enjoyed greatly. That was this mixed discipline program of uh, human behavioral theory, communications, and research methodologies.
Okay.
And that helped me a great deal.
Mm.
Great deal. Well, I've been licensed for over 50 years as a real estate agent, but my first job out of university was at a very large corporation.
Mm.
And as I worked my way up in that corporation, I was fascinated by the opportunities that could be represented by understanding people.
Mm.
And so the various personalities and emotions that people exhibit.
I see. I see. And so, additionally, that's really interesting, and I love it. I love it. I think, yeah, I love the idea. I think if I were to go back to school, I would 100% choose psychology. So
Yeah.
that's why I was
Well,
asking.
a lot of people in real estate and professional services fields um, see emotion in their clients as the enemy.
Mm.
I see it as my friend.
How so?
Well, when people are emotional, they are emotionally connected to something,
Right.
like buying a home or selling a home. Uh, when they're emotionally connected, they pay more attention. When they're emotionally connected, they're more involved in the process than they are when it's just a product decision.
Right.
It's a very emotional decision to buy a home. So I tell a story in the book about Sandy. Sandy was going through a divorce, and I met with her, with my wife, who's my partner, to help her deal with a problem. The problem was how to change her life, go through a divorce, and sell a very expensive home. I believe it was about $1,500,000. Uh, that was many years ago.
Mm.
And we met with Sandy, who was an absolute wreck. I mean, she was a wreck for a number of reasons, but I won't go into all of them. But uh, she found us because we lived in the same neighborhood, and our marketing and the way we marketed to that neighborhood caused her to notice us. And she gave us an opportunity to meet with her. She listed her home, and we sold it. And then I had to help her find a home, a different kind of home, because she was going through a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And when I showed her a home that I thought would be right for her, this is an example of emotion in real estate and in many businesses. When I showed her this home that I thought would be right for her, she said, "Sonny, this looks a lot like my home." I said, "It is. It's a lot smaller. It was built by the same builder, very similar style to your current home." And we walked in the door, and she had her daughter with her who was in college age. And Sandy looked at me, walked over to the sofa, sat down, and started crying uncontrollably. And so I walked over and sat down beside her on the sofa and just was quiet, letting her cry, being there for her while her daughter walked off into the other room to look at the house. And finally, Sandy looked at me and said, "This is the worst day of my life." Now, some people would look at that and say that that's bad, but I bonded with her in a very special
Mm.
way by not pushing and talking real estate, by not trying to show the home. I connected with her in a way that made her trust me and see me differently than a product oriented salesperson.
Mm.
That relationship lasted for years. She bought that home. and we became very good friends. Unfortunately, life throws lots of curves at you, as I've talked about my own life. Sandy had a lot of problems. She got through them. She still lives there today. But when I talk about emotion, emotion is your friend, not your enemy. When
Mm,
people are emotionally attached to what you're helping them with, you really help them solve problems. And
mm,
when you really help them solve problems, you build trust. You build relationships that stand the test of time. And with that trust, that's why they call you back. Because
mm.
there's lots of people that will try to get them to call them instead of you,
Right. That is
no
uh
matter what business you're in, professional service wise.
right, right. Yeah, that's such a beautiful like example because it's true. And I think, sometimes it's understanding what's going on with that person versus, even just panicking or not knowing what to do, right? With somebody that is breaking down for the
Let me tell
better.
you another story that's a little more fun.
Okay.
Okay. We went and interviewed with a couple who had three beautiful girls. They were very small. And the girls were playing, and the parents decided to choose us to help them sell their home. And we started showing the home, and an agent called me and said, uh, Sonny, I need to talk to you about that home and about something that came up when we were showing the home. And I said, well, and I thought this was a serious problem. I said, well, what was it? She said, well, when we arrived to look at the home, someone had written in chalk on the sidewalk out front, this is a bad home. Don't buy this home. Well, the three little girls did not want to move. The agent said to me, you can, of course, we all laughed about it, right? The agent said to me, anyone who loves their kids, love that home that much, that's my people want, and they bought that home. Okay. For years, when we would talk to these people, even though they moved away, by the way, they moved back and called us. But when they moved away, and every time we talked to them, it was funny and it was connection.
Mm,
It was a connection that was deeper than a real estate sales. It was something that was special related to their children. That's emotion in real estate.
mm,
That's the connections that you look for in real estate.
mm,
Something that's more than a product sale.
mm. Yes,
And that
I
one's a fun story instead of a sad story.
yeah. Great. You have all the stories.
A lot of them.
So your book, The Architecture of the Real Estate Practice, the psychology and art of the real estate profession.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to write the book?
Um, there was a competition by the Dallas Builders Association. And this competition was to choose the best realtor in Dallas, the number one realtor in Dallas. And I was nominated for it. And there were two other people nominated. Well, there were a bunch of people nominated, but three people were chosen.
Mm,
So I made the cut of the three people. The other two people had more volume than me, meaning total dollar value of sales. Um, and the competition involved being interviewed by a panel of judges. And I went in and interviewed to see if I could win that award. And I talked primarily like you and I are talking today. Why do people choose you? Why? How do you help people? And the night of the event, um, I did not expect to win because one of the people who was nominated had double the volume I had.
mm,
But I connected with the panel,
mm,
and they liked the way I worked, which was problem solving, consultative, and collaborative. And I won. And so for that year, I was chosen as the best realtor in Dallas by the Dallas Builders Association. Now, what was important about that to me? I won it because my emphasis on what I did was about helping people.
Mm.
And that was kind of the first thought. I should write a book
Mm.
about how to help people in real estate.
Okay.
That's why I wrote the book.
Okay. So was it kind of like a light that, hey, like,
More
this.
like an inkling.
Mm.
It was at that moment when they announced that
Mm.
I was the winner, and of course I went up and I had to do a little acceptance speech and thank people and all that. But I think it was an inkling at that point that this is a calling. I mentioned inspiration earlier.
Mhm.
At that point, there was a little inkling that at some point in my life, I would want to share my philosophy about operating a professional services company, particularly real estate, and help people solve problems and help people.
Mm.
I never looked at real estate as selling houses.
Mm.
Selling houses was the natural result of helping people.
Mm.
Helping them buy a home was a natural result of helping them find the right home for their situation, their needs at that particular moment. And so in the book, I talk about hierarchy of needs,
Mhm.
buyer and seller needs, and an agent who can understand the hierarchy of the client's needs, what's important to them, and puts that most important, will sell a lot of homes. Will make a lot of very happy people and have a lot of really trusted clients who trust you.
Mm.
That's the secret ingredient in my mind, is building that trusting relationship.
Mm. I could not agree anymore, and I just love how you put it just so eloquently.
Well, thank you.
And it's everything that you say. It's so easy to understand these examples, these metaphors. It makes the message come through easily.
Well, thank you.
And it's almost something like, okay, like I knew that, I just didn't think about it like that before,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Well, do you mind if I tell you one other quick story? It
Please.
relates to people
Mm.
who are seeking a career in real estate or insurance, financial plan, any of these professional services fields, but particularly in my case, real estate. I got a call. I spoke at a convention
Mm.
in New Orleans at a national convention for an industry. And I spoke at that convention. And one of the attendees called me afterwards and said, "We need your help. Uh, we're in California." I did not only residential real estate, but commercial real estate and consulting.
Mm.
I'm going to introduce a term, the business model. My business model was the singular solution: residential real estate, commercial real estate, and consulting.
Consulting. Hmm.
And those three things were the primary business model. And I would go into great more detail than I do in the book. But these people asked me to come to California and help them solve a problem. This gentleman, his name was Preston. Preston had leased 25,000 square feet in a very expensive building in Costa Mesa, California. I tell this story in the book. And Preston had invested a lot of money and was losing a lot of money. A lot of money. Keep in mind, this was back in 1990,
Mm.
a long time ago, and he was losing a lot of money. And he was a former president of a mid-sized corporation. He had degrees, he had experience, he had run a large company. And when he retired from that company, he wanted to run his own business. And so he started up this business,
Mm.
and it was failing.
Mm.
And his key person contacted me and said, "We need help. I saw you at the convention. Can you come to California and review our business, and how would you help us?" And things like that. Well, I went there and I did a review of their business, and I met with Mr. Anderson uh, at the end of that 3-day assignment. Here was a man who'd been successful in everything he had ever done in his life, head of a medium-sized corporation. I'm talking about probably 2 or 3,000 employees and
Mm.
a lot of money, made a lot of money, and he was very successful at it. He thought that he knew. He thought he understood
Mm.
what was involved. Now, the correlation here is that so many people go into real estate thinking they know what they're going to face, thinking they understand what the business is about, believing that they have been prepared because they were in technology or because they were in a sales position, that they were going to go into real estate and be successful and make a lot of money, drive a fancy car, belong to the country club, and take out the people out to dinner and experience the joy of going to a closing with them and having them celebrate. And then they
Mm.
find out it's a whole lot different than what they thought. And it's a lot more difficult than what they thought. And so, Mr. Anderson, I met with him and I talked to him kind of like a friend talking to another friend. And I explained to him why he had lost $400,000 at that point and that he was headed toward more substantial losses if he didn't make changes. And almost in tears, this very proud, successful executive said to me, Sonny, what do I need to do? And we put together a plan and we reversed the course of that business and made him successful. It took time. He lost some more money before he started making money.
Mm.
The reason I tell you the story is there's a very similar correlation to what I find in real estate. People come into real estate, they don't have a business model, they don't know what they're going to sell and why they're going to sell it, who they're going to sell it to. They don't understand what's required to be highly successful in real estate over time. Maybe somebody comes in as rookie of the year their first year. Maybe they get a bunch of sales from friends and family. That's
Mm.
what most people sell first is someone and a friend and family. And then maybe they get 6 months into it and suddenly there's no business. And they don't know what to do in marketing and they don't know how to create more business and they don't know how to target markets. And so as a result, they start to have zero or very little income. While it's possible to be successful and be so great, so charismatic, and so wonderful that people hire you, it's not usual. And so the correlation was if they had known what they really needed to do, not just get their real estate license, because all the license does is allow you to legally sell real estate.
Right.
It doesn't really prepare you to run a business. And the person who's been through a career in, let's say technology just for a moment, a career in technology who thinks because they're high tech, they
Mm.
can go into real estate when real estate is about relationships and about
Mm.
people. Often many high tech people come into real estate and don't make it.
Mm.
And I saw so many people, as running my own group within every holiday, we had people who worked for us too, you
Mm.
know? And those people were so ill equipped. They got into real estate for the wrong reasons.
Mm.
They thought they, like Darren, they thought they were going to come in, make a lot of money in a hurry. It would be easy. It looked easy, by the way. If you drive around with an agent in their car and you're talking to them and they're showing you houses, it's all good. I
Right.
mean, you think the agent's going to tell you that they only made $25,000 last year?
Right.
But if you look at the amount of money agents make the first 2 years of real estate, it's not very good. The average
Right.
is very
Right.
low.
Right.
In fact, it's barely sustaining themselves, if that much.
Right. Hence the reason most quit after two
Absolutely. They
years,
run out,
right?
they're not
Yeah.
prepared, they run out of money. And if you look at the statistics in my book and in the National Association of Realtors reports, you find that a very high, for example, did you know that in 2022, 33% of the 1,520,000 real estate agents with NAR at the time were thinking about leaving within 2 years?
No.
Yeah, yeah. The 6% were sure they were leaving.
Mm.
That's 95,000 people that went into real estate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they thought it was going to be easy because it looks easy.
Right.
You drive people around, you show them houses, it's fun. You got their little kids with you. You take them in, they see houses, they're all happy, they buy a home, you get paid. Most people who go into real estate don't even know how much they're going to be paid. They
Right.
think the commission's 3% or 6% or something. They have no idea about splits. They have no idea about how much the brokerage firm keeps. They have no idea about what they're going to be paying for out of their own pocket. They don't have a faintest idea of how much money they make on a $500,000 sale.
Hmm.
And so when they go into real estate, it's all this big surprise and it's shocking.
Right. And I think also the effect of social media,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So, and it's, painting a good picture on social media of like being successful. And it correlates the same as other things. For example, somebody may have, maybe living a very tough life, but everything they put on Facebook or internet or social media, period, says the opposite, right?
Mhm.
It's like, don't really trust just what you see, right?
Well,
It's
not only that, Myra, but that's really a very good point. I'm glad you brought up social media because a lot of people believe they're going to go into real estate and that Facebook or LinkedIn or one of these social media sites, Instagram, is going to cause them to be successful in real estate. Now, just think about it for a minute. I've already given you some statistics that talk about how many people are in real estate. Now most people sell homes to people in a general area.
mm,
Social media is wide.
right,
It's not specific to a target market or area. Now, how many people want to choose a real estate agent from Dallas to help them sell a home in Abilene?
right,
So, social media is very wide. It's a very broad market, target marketing strategy. Okay.
right.
Specific marketing, targeted marketing, is more precise to a neighborhood or an area. So many people think they're going to be on social media and they're going to be hugely successful in real estate. Those people out there are probably not going to call you.
Mhm.
The person who's going to call you is the person who lives over here 3 blocks from you, who knows that you're in real estate and has met you possibly at a meeting someplace, and they liked you and they noticed you.
Mhm.
And that brings us to a concept called differentiation. If you don't mind, let's explore down that channel of marketing for a minute. Okay.
Yes. So you have a chapter
Mhm.
here called the marketing mix. So what does that mean, marketing
Yeah.
mix?
Well, okay. So I mentioned art a minute
Mhm.
ago. Just picture an artist. Okay. An artist has a uh, palette of colors, and they take different colors to blend them on their canvas, and they create a beautiful picture.
Mhm.
And they choose a little bit of yellow, a little bit of black, a little bit of white, and they create this. Well, think of the marketing mix as the palette of a person marketing themselves.
Mm.
And the palette is I need a little bit of this, social media, for example, and I need some direct contact, this,
Mm.
and I need some neighborhood specialization over here, and I need some direct marketing, direct contact to the homeowner,
Mm.
and I need some PTA involvement, school involvement, and I need some print media advertising, and I need some, well, probably wouldn't do radio, would we?
You
Well,
could.
radio is a broad thing. And most people who
Right.
buy real estate from an agent buy from close by them. Okay. They don't choose somebody from Abilene to represent their home for sale. In fact, they like neighborhood specialization. So the marketing mix is the palette of what pieces you bring together. And here's the scary and the hard part. Nobody knows which piece is going to be the most successful for them based upon the target market that they choose. So, for
Mm.
example, let me just give you, I'm going to give you an example of a marketing campaign
Okay.
that we did. We moved to a neighborhood called Starwood in Frisco, Texas. We moved there in 1998. The neighborhood had 1,000 homes
Mm.
when built out. When we moved there, they had 120 homes. Now, we moved there and decided to target that neighborhood as it grew so that when they bought homes and then eventually sold homes, we would create a market in our own little neighborhood. And so we created a neighborhood specialization approach. I went and got the domain name starwoodhomes.com. And I set up email addresses, Sonny at starwoodhomes.com and Judy at starwoodhomes.com. And everything we sent to that neighborhood was starwoodhomes.com. We
Mm.
became the Starwood Realtor.
Mm.
So when we talk about specializing in a neighborhood, now domain names are very inexpensive to own.
Right.
Okay.
Especially
Doing all the
nowadays.
marketing is different, okay? But the specializing in a neighborhood. So we then created in that neighborhood the feeling that we were the neighborhood specialist and everything we did. And then we got on board using the first advertising in the Starwood neighborhood newspaper. And then we began taking over and being the person who put together that magazine. And
Mm.
then when the neighborhood decided not to do it anymore, we started our own Starwood Homes magazine.
Magazine.
Okay. Now, put this in perspective. There's 1,000 homes in that neighborhood. Okay. We kept tracking the homes that we sold in that neighborhood. And at 150 sales, we stopped counting. But we went up to about 175 before we decided to leave that neighborhood.
Mm.
Why? Because population movement, trends, and where we wanted to live and things like that. So we left a very lucrative market behind. We still got business after we moved, but it was ancillary business. It wasn't our prime because we went to a different place and started another one to that neighborhood. So when we talk about
Mm.
target marketing, our marketing was everywhere. It wasn't just social media. It
Okay.
was our signs. It was our open houses. It was being in the newspaper, the magazine. So the marketing mix is the palette of marketing ideas and techniques. And this talks about this in the book. How do you take all the different pieces, put together a plan, and that requires resources. And people who go into real estate who don't have a marketing budget, don't have a business model, don't know what they're going to do and who they're going to do it to as far as sending things, how they're going to reach people, and how they're going to differentiate themselves. At Starwood, after a
Mm.
couple of years, there were over 50 people who lived in Starwood who were real estate agents for 1,000 homes. Now, there were a lot of people who wanted to do business in Starwood who didn't live there.
Mm.
So the number of agents mailing to that neighborhood was probably in excess of 100. So, how do you capture market share in a neighborhood and capture and get 150 or 175 sales over a period of 15 years, roughly 10 sales per year from that neighborhood at an average price of about 500,000?
That how to
That's business. Okay.
and the how to you basically give your blueprint
That's right.
in this book.
That's right.
Wow.
What I
How
wanted to do was to create a book that someone, you'll be able to get it in ebook format. That's not the best choice, but you can do that. But the printed book is meant to be a reference manual that
Mm.
you keep on the shelf. And when you say, what did he say about this? You pull it down, you go to that chapter, and you go back into it and read it again. Okay? Because
Mhm.
that gives you the blueprint. So the
Right.
payoff for the book is the section toward the end that is the sample business model.
Okay, I think
And that
that's
actual sample business model, and I think being in real estate, I believe you said for 6 years, if you don't have a really clearly defined business model, it's very difficult to allocate resources to the highest producing income area.
mm,
Okay. And if you don't
mhm.
have profit centers defined, where am I going to make my money? So in our case, we had 3 profit centers, didn't we? We had residential real estate, which included everything from investment properties, farm and ranch, homes in our neighborhoods, et cetera, commercial real estate. And commercial real estate, it was very specific. I wanted to represent people in large buildings where the transaction size was over 10,000 square feet. And that was a very lucrative side of the business.
Mm.
And then the consulting, because in the consulting arena, I could solve someone's problems, which would result in them wanting to choose me to help them sell their home, buy a home, invest in a home, or help them with their office.
Mm.
So we had clients who we did everything for them, the singular solution for all their real estate needs. We had clients who we helped them with their office leases. We helped them buy investment property. We helped them buy and sell their homes.
Mm.
We helped their family buy and sell homes. And we helped people who were in their sphere of influence because they were influencers who could influence someone else to do business with us.
Wow. So with that much business, how how is it that you are able to stay on top and
Great question. A
and
great question.
and keep track and really nurturing for beyond,
Boy, great
right?
question. Let me explain. Let me give you an answer for you.
Mm.
There's only one, the most important resource is a very important question. What is the most important resource in your real estate operation? It's you.
Mm.
And particularly, it's you, your voice, and your fingers,
Mm.
dialing a phone, making contact, person-to-person contact. You are the most valuable resource, and that resource has to be allocated to the most potential revenue opportunity that exists
Mm.
in your market that you're choosing, okay? So allocating the most important resource to the most important possibilities, the best opportunities,
Mhm.
is everything about real estate. So to answer your question, how did I do this? Well, I had 3 assistants. They weren't real estate agents, they were assistants. They made me highly productive. They allowed
Mm.
me to be able to go out there and spend 80+% of my time in direct contact with clients who could buy or sell or have me help them lease real estate, or I could solve a problem for them.
Wow,
Okay.
okay.
So our business model was my wife was my financial partner.
Mm.
She was the one who handled all the money.
Okay.
I had 3 assistants who handled almost everything else, but not talking to my clients.
Mm.
I talked to my clients. I was the primary voice that they heard. And the only way I had the time to do that was by having 3 people support me.
Mm.
So in our business model, we had two agents, my wife and myself, who were both brokers, and we had 3 assistants.
Mm.
I didn't have buyer agent representatives. I didn't have listing agent representatives working for me.
Wow.
I was the person who did it.
Wow. That's brilliant.
And that was our business model. So if you don't know what your business model is, if you can't visualize what your business model is, how are you going to create a business? And how are you going to write a business and marketing plan? So the book is about visualizing a business model, and it gives a sample business model. First, it describes what a business model is and
Mm.
what it isn't. What it isn't is something that you would share with other people and let them read.
Mm.
What it isn't is a polished thesis paper. It is a rough draft that will change minute by minute as you grow and change yourself.
Mm.
And that that molding and that changing of that business model is how you every year you modify your business and marketing plan, you update it and you change it and you accept new opportunities, and that's how you grow your business.
I love everything you're saying because and I think it applies even like to anything, right?
For sure.
And I love the fact that you're saying that you change it year by year because even on just any business whatsoever, sometimes you can see that like they've plateaued,
Yeah.
like, and and I sometimes I wonder like. Is it like was that the highest they think they could have
Mhm.
gone? Because I can see the more potential if you just
Mhm.
change a few things on your business,
Yeah.
right? So I love the idea that, or what you just said, that you change it year by year. So you're not married
Yeah.
to
This
it. And not only that, I feel like, with that in mind and knowing that it will change as you grow, I think like subconsciously you're looking constantly to keep learning versus
Oh,
thinking,
for sure.
"Oh, I know it all.
Yeah.
I'm
Have you
good."
read the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great?
No, not that one.
That book is a great book. And it's a great book because it says something that's very important. Good is the enemy of great.
Mm.
And so many people become good in real estate
Mhm.
that they stop striving to be great in real estate and they accept being good. Maybe they make $150,000 in a year. That's very good, right? But they're satisfied with it.
Mhm.
If you want
Right.
to make, well, 4% of real estate agents in the United States with NAR, there's 1,520,000 plus agents with NAR in 2021 going into 2022. 4% made over $250,000. 4%.
4%.
Now, 4% of
There's
a million
96
500,000 people. Now, that's a lot of people, but it's not compared to the total.
the
So, how do you
96%.
become that agent
Mhm.
that makes $250 to $400,000 per year on average?
Mm.
You don't do that by not having a business plan, a business model, a marketing plan, resource allocation, and a whole lot of planning and thinking. And that usually requires other resources than just you.
Right.
So some of that money, that $150,000, has to be spent on acquiring assets and knowledge, coming up with ideas and thinking and plans. This book is
Mm.
part of that. It's how to learn from this book and apply those concepts. What I want is for people who read this book to not finish the book and say, I got 3 or 4 good ideas from the book, it was worth the money. I want them to say, this was the most powerful book I've ever read
Mm.
to help me be successful in what I choose to do, whether it's real estate or insurance or whatever it is. So that's what the book's about. It's helping people succeed, not just good, but great.
You
So
know,
Jim Collins, the book Good to Great, you've got to read it.
I do. I
And the,
do have to read
and
it.
the other book is a book by Ken Blanchard, and it's called Raving Fans.
Okay, haven't read that either.
Another great book.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have to read Malcolm Gladwell's books.
Yeah, I've
Tipping Point
not that
is one
one.
of them. David versus Goliath.
Not
Yeah, those are
yes.
great books, and they're hard books. My book is designed after those books.
Mm.
My book is not an easy read.
Mm.
My book's a hard read.
Mhm.
It's not, when you start writing a book, all the conventional wisdom says write it to the 8th grade level. That's not what I did. I wrote a book at a much higher intellect and level than 8th grade.
Mm.
Because the people who go into real estate, a very high percentage of them have a degree. A very high percentage of them have a prior career in something. Sorry, I didn't mean to
That's
bang the
okay.
table. I get excited.
Yeah, no.
And, to be successful in real estate, you have to have enthusiasm. You have to have a lot of willingness to learn and accept, and you must be willing to lose.
Mhm.
You have to be willing. You're not going to go in every interview and win.
Right.
Just look at it this way. Let's hope we don't ever have this happen. You're in Arlington. I'm over in Prosper. We were competing for a listing opportunity. You don't want to compete against a Goliath unless you're ready.
Mm. Mhm.
Goliath, you want to be the David, right?
Right.
And so you want to be the David that slew Goliath. Well, you don't want to go into an interview for a listing opportunity on $1 million+ home and not be prepared.
Mhm. Right. Right. Or even
So
and
that brings us to differentiation, by the way.
okay.
Let me draw you an analogy, or let me give you a little metaphor or example of it, okay? You picture, and I want you to kind of visualize, you picture a ballroom in a fancy hotel,
Okay.
and there's 399 people in this ballroom,
Okay.
and they're all dressed in gray. Now, they're women, men, a bunch of different people. They're all dressed in gray. And across their foreheads is stamped the word salesperson. They all look alike. They all act alike. They all seem the same. Okay? But one person walks in, and they're wearing a beautiful blue suit. And they act different. And in fact, across their head says, I care about you.
Mm.
They stand out in the crowd. Let me tell you about Karen Masters.
Okay.
I was doing a big convention, and I was speaking to a pretty good sized group. And everybody was coming in at the last minute before I was to begin my presentation. And everybody was dressed nicely. But Karen Masters walked in the room, and she had henna colored hair. She was dressed to the tens. It was in the winter. She was wearing a mink coat. And she walked in with an air of confidence. She walked in, and everyone in the room turned and looked at her. She was one of the last one of the people to enter the room. Okay? She had a brand, and it was her. She was different. In this world of so many real estate agents, you got to be good.
Mm.
It's perfect if you're better, but you have to be different. You
Right.
have to stand out in a crowd. You have to be somehow get the attention of those people that you're targeting
Mhm.
so that they notice you. You have to be noticed. And so much of our marketing in real estate is copycat marketing.
Mhm.
Okay? Somebody provides you a free template and you use that template for your marketing. And 200 other agents use the same template. It looks the same. It smells the same. It has the same objective uh, goals. Okay, because
Mhm.
it's a copycat marketing. Okay, your marketing has to be unique and different and be special, and it has to be noticeable. And when you look like 999 others, you become ubiquitous. And when you're ubiquitous, you're the same as all the others. So why choose them? And by the way, since they're all the same, I want the one who's the cheapest.
Mhm.
Okay, so our model said we are not discount brokers.
Mhm.
We do not discount our brokerage fee. Okay,
Right.
we said we charge the full boat of whatever that is, because as you know, it depends on the market. We charge the highest prices and we deliver the most value because we are better and we're different so that we have the opportunity to present that we're better.
Right. Would you
Okay.
say I love that. And the thing that comes into mind as you're saying that, and something that I've had in my mind just throughout, it's authenticity.
Authenticity is a great comment. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, and you talk about like if you copy the same marketing plan,
Yeah.
that's not authenticity. And
No, it's not.
um and so it makes sense. It makes so much sense in these analogies that you've made. It paints even a much more clear
Yeah.
picture. Um,
Well, it begs to ask the question then, if I provide a business model in the book, I don't intend that people copy the business model.
yeah,
I
right.
intend that the business model is a guide to show them how to create their own business model. What I want people to do, I don't want people to become me.
Right.
I want people to take what I teach them in this book
Yes.
and merge it with their own personality, their own style to be a Karen Masters who walks into a room and they are noticed.
Mm,
To take what I teach them with their own personality, their own style, and merge it together to create a more powerful person, a more powerful real estate salesperson, or whatever the role might be. You have to be different. And differentiation is one of the overriding
mm,
concepts throughout the entire book.
mm.
Almost everything in the book is about how do you get noticed. Now, in my case, we had a very unique strategy. A lot of couples in real estate have a lead person, and maybe the other person is a backup person. Judy and I were both brokers.
Mm.
Judy was the lead in the residential side. I was the lead in the commercial and consulting side. Our model said we combine these two people to create a more powerful balance
Mm.
that when we go on a joint presentation with someone, they don't get just Sonny or just Judy, they get us both.
Mm.
And they're not one's the power and one's not. Both are very powerful. Both are highly educated and highly successful. Both have great. Now, she happened to be more analytically oriented, and tended to be more expressive, outgoing. Okay. It was a great combination because if we met with someone who was highly analytical, she took the lead.
Right.
If we met with someone who was highly expressive, I took the lead.
Right.
And so, in our own way, we took that combination of personality,
Mm.
education. She was a former special education teacher.
Mm.
She was a former educator and very intelligent. I was a consultant, a marketing person. We took those personalities, put them together. Now, if you have a high tech person and you have a very expressive, outgoing sales, consultative oriented person, not product salesperson, and you combine their skill sets together, you create a powerful
Mm.
model.
Mm.
Okay. That's what the business model is. So I don't want people to use my business model the way, because first of all, how many real estate agents do you know that also did commercial real estate?
Right.
Large buildings, leases that are 150 pages long. Okay. Very few real estate people do that. Okay?
Right.
So I'm not asking them to do that. I'm asking them to take the ideas, the concepts of the business model, create something that they can visualize. How do you visualize
Mm.
with just our discussion tonight? Okay?
Mm.
Just our discussion. How do you take everything I say tonight and visualize what you're going to create in this business plan that you're going to put together? And many people go into real estate without the ability to visualize what we're talking about.
Yes. In one of your pages of the book, you know, it says you have basically kind of like at the structure,
Mhm.
right, uh, um, of the practice. So you have the concepts, which is, and I like how you even for the eye, the visual eye, the concepts you put them at the bottom
Yeah.
because you mentioned earlier you structured it similarly to building
Building a home.
a
Yeah.
home, right?
Well, the
So
foundation of the practice is those keystone concepts.
yes.
And those keystone concepts are broad concepts that apply to almost any business. Okay. For example, I talk about a term in there called self disclosure and reciprocity.
Mm,
And now, self disclosure and reciprocity is a psychology term. It comes from a psychologist named Sidney Girard, who was a psychologist who wrote about dealing with patients
mm,
and how the concept of self disclosure and reciprocity worked in giving care to patients. Okay? Essentially, how to get them to talk, how to get them to share. And he introduced the concept of self disclosure and reciprocity. To the other person, we are a mystery. They don't know what we're thinking, they don't know what we're going to do. And therefore, they remain on guard when they're in our presence.
mm,
How do we have them not be on guard? How do we get them to relax, share, disclose, to allow us to see each other and like each other? Most people believe that people buy from people they know and like. How do you get someone to like you when they're afraid of you?
mm.
And so self disclosure reciprocity is one of the key concepts, and that crosses over all the different other things about it. So once you learn the keystone concepts of communications, psychology, and some of the things that we're talking about tonight, once you learn that, then the principles of real estate, how you structure your business, your marketing, becomes much more trust building, much more focused than it is if you're just throwing things against the wall, hoping that someone will notice you. You have to have a plan. You have to say, and I would ask you this, not to answer now, but when I leave, what are the 5 things that make you different and that would cause someone to choose you versus the other 25 real estate agents who live in your area?
Mhm.
And if you can't identify, so when I meet with agents and they say to me, I've been in real estate 5 years, are you making money? Well, yeah, I'm making some. Had some good years and some bad years, but are you satisfied with your success at this point? No, I'm not satisfied with what I'm doing. When I meet with people, I ask them a question: how are you different? If I walked into a ballroom of 400 people, why would I choose you versus the other 399?
Mm.
Or do I just choose 3 and hope I get a good agent?
Right.
And when you claim you're better by showing me your designation list,
Mm.
does that prove that you're better?
Right.
Does having a designation really prove that you're better? Or do you
Mm.
have to prove it by demonstrating proficiency, one of the keystone concepts? So, demonstrating proficiency is not claiming to be better, it's demonstrating that you're better.
Yes.
And you never have to say, I'm a specialist in senior living. Because you're talking to them and you're demonstrating it, they believe it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Claiming to be better is shallow proof.
Mhm.
Demonstrating you're better
Yeah.
is far superior. So, demonstrating proficiency is one of the key concepts, keystone concepts in the whole development of a real estate practice.
Paramount.
And so, when I go and people ask me, and I've been in real estate for a long time, as you know,
50
people say to
years.
me, so what designations do you have? Not customers, but other agents usually. And my answer is this: I'm a broker, not just an agent.
Mm.
That's the first way I differentiate myself.
Mm.
Here's how you would use it with a client. Well, uh, Myra, a lot of people are real estate agents. Not so many are real estate brokers. Judy and I are both real estate brokers. You have to take a different test. You're held to a higher standard to become a real estate broker. I've just
Mhm.
differentiated myself from 90% of the real estate agents in the marketplace.
Right.
And so differentiation becomes one of the key concepts. So when you talk about demonstrating proficiency, which is one, so I make the point in the book that any one of those keystone concepts is by and of itself very important, very powerful. But together, they form a malleable foundation that allows you to construct a real estate practice that will stand the test of time and economy.
Mm.
Good times, bad times, whatever throws at you. And one of the things I would tell real estate agents if they ask me, we make money, we made great money in good times and bad times. When times are tough, people have more problems and they need more solutions.
Mm.
And when things are easy, they need someone who understands that it's easy and works
Gosh.
with them that we're going to tailor our marketing program to your needs. And also, I guess probably one thing is agents should never assume
Mm.
that the client's most important aspect is how much they sell their home for.
Mm.
Some people, the most important thing is how soon can I sell my home? And other people can say, I don't care how long it takes. Here's what I want.
Mm.
So
Right.
understanding the hierarchy
Hierarchy.
of client need is very important.
I want to be respectful of your time, but I do want to
Sure.
make sure that, I touch base on some of these things that, especially the book. A lot of agents may not have, especially the new ones, right, may not have the resources to hire a mentor,
Oh, for sure. Most people don't.
right? So, which that brings me two things. One, this is like gold for anyone that is an agent that is looking to elevate their business or that is
That's a great way
looking
to put it.
right that
They're
is
already
looking
successful and they want to be better. They want to be
right.
great.
Yes.
Elevate. I love that word.
Yes, right? Or people that are interested in and I have people many people ask me, "How'd you get into it?" Like people have questions and, and sure you can point them to how to get licensed or you can
Yeah.
point them to how to get licensed, but first understand what you're getting into,
Sure. Yeah.
right? So there's nothing on the market like this book, not that I'm aware of. Um,
Yeah, it's not like any other book. Most books in real estate are either about contracts, the technology. I mean, the actual how to do real estate, how to
right,
write a contract, how to do things like that, or they're about how to get rich quick.
right,
That's not what this is. This
right.
book is about how to build a practice over time and something that will be malleable and change with what happens. I'll give you a quick example. So, Judy and I went to a technology conference at a large hotel. And as I can remember, there were several hundred real estate agents there, probably 300 or more. It's a very large ballroom in a large
Mm,
hotel. And the speakers were technology oriented people. And they were talking about new technologies. And they started out the meeting basically calling us all dinosaurs. Yeah, yeah, dinosaurs. Now, um, and they called us dinosaurs because their point was that we were not aware of or conversant with the new technologies that were out there. And the conference, the meeting was probably, I'd say 2.5 or 3 hours long. And at noon, when the meeting was over, it was 9 to 12, I believe, we left the meeting and they had basically told us that if we didn't get with it, the new technologies, that we would be extinct.
mm.
That was the dinosaur connection. Okay. And we left there. And on the way out, I said to my wife and partner, Judy, so we learned a lot today, didn't we? And she said, well, I'm not sure. What do you mean? I said, well, we learned some things to do, and we learned a lot of things not to do. And she kind of looked at me kind of funny and says, what are you talking about? And I said to her, a lot of what they wanted us to do, embracing these new technologies, being able to operate faster, more efficiently with technology, would take us further away from our clients
Mm.
rather than bringing us closer to our clients.
Mm.
Using texting, using email, messaging rather than contact doesn't get you closer to your clients. So we took a lot of what they said and we implemented some of it,
Mm.
but we committed ourselves to going back and doing the opposite. We went back and said, how can we be closer to our clients? How can we increase the amount of personal contact? How can we be more a part of their lives? How can we talk to them more,
Mm.
not less?
Mm.
And the next 10 years of our real estate practice was the most successful we had ever been. Okay. Because we weren't moving away from them, we were embracing them. And I think the key for most real estate agents is to know this. You have to be able to talk to people, reach people in a very genuine and authentic way.
Mm.
And when you do, they love you
Mm.
and they'll continue to refer people to you, and they'll do the most important thing possible. And that is, not only do I want to use you, I want my friends and my sphere to use you because I want them to have the benefit of your knowledge like I have had it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's the golden ticket. And that's why one of our clients opened the door to over 25 people. And we had over $250,000 of revenue from referrals from that one client.
Wow.
That ties back to a very important concept that I'll leave you with: the law of the few.
Mm.
Find a
Can you
few great
elaborate?
clients. Out of those 109 or 210 people in that marketplace, find a few people
Mm.
that you connect with who will open the sphere of influence to you and help you because
Mm.
they want to.
Wow. I love that. Before we go, a few things. One, I want to encourage everyone, um, including not even in the real estate sector, but anyone that wants or needs more so a resource that can help them, basically kind of like a GPS, set a map. You want to go to a
Great way to
destination.
put it.
Just so grateful that you were able to take the time to put your brain into a book.
Thank you.
You know, and I look forward to reading it. When does it come out?
I should be printed and available by the end of November.
End of November.
Yeah, it's ideal for. I wanted to do it by early November, but the publisher is having a hard time printing it and getting it to me in time.
I
So
hear it's a
it'll
very good quality.
it's very high quality, and it's a hardback book. There is also an ebook available. The hardback will be much more valuable because you can go back to it and refer to it easily.
Mm.
You can do that with an electronic book or ebook, but it's a lot easier to
Mhm.
pull it down and sit by the fireplace and look at it and say, okay, what did he say about marketing mix?
Mhm.
And go to that chapter and do a deep dive into that chapter
Yeah.
and then start working on your marketing program.
And not only that, you have QR codes in some pages
Mhm.
that you go deeper.
I believe there's 17 QR codes that are tied to videos that are online and only exclusive to this book.
Mm.
They're not available otherwise.
Oh,
And you can hover over those and choose the QR code and go and see the video while you're reading the chapter to get further amplification of the concepts.
okay.
And then there's, by the way, there's another quick thing for you. There's over 5,000 words of actual copy, what you should say,
Scripts.
the language of real estate. so that you don't have to recreate it. Now, I don't want you to use it the way I said it.
Right.
I want you to take it and merge it with your personality and style to
Yes.
create a more powerful you.
Right. It's a great foundation for you to start laying your own bricks
Yes.
over it.
So I hope that at the end of this meeting, you've got a list of things you're going to do. That when I leave here, you're going to be, hopefully, if I've been successful tonight in our meeting,
Mm,
then you have a whole list of things that you're going to start working on because hopefully I have helped you. And like Dick Kendrick helped me,
mm.
I want to help others to be more successful and achieve more and achieve greatness.
I love that. I love that. Now, Sonny, every episode. Well, before I do that, how can we purchase the books? How can people
You can
find
go
the
to
book?
the name of the book is The Architecture of Real Estate Practice, but that's too long, right?
Mm,
So the domain name realestatebook.org.
okay.
You go to that website and you can not only go to that website and read about the book and watch some videos about me, but you can also uh, at the bottom of the website, it's a very quick read website. At the bottom, you can sign up for free content.
Mm,
And that's, we're not going to be hound you about buying the book, promise. What you want to do is you want to get that free content and see what I've written.
mm,
And then you also want to look at the videos and decide if I can help you.
mm.
And I
Okay.
want to thank you for having me on your podcast. It's very enjoyable. Great
Good.
fun. I enjoyed my time here. I just wish I had more time.
I wish so too.
All right.
Maybe we'll have to do it again.
You bet. I'd love to.
Yeah, this has been an honor. I really looked forward to our conversation, and I've been wowed. I knew it was going to be good, and I've been wowed.
All right, good.
I have learned a lot. I do have a lot of homework. And to end the podcast, I end it with two final questions
Sure.
every
I'll
episode.
be glad to. Yeah.
So the first one is, what is the greatest piece of advice you've ever received?
The greatest piece of advice I've ever received. One was a gentleman who was very powerful and very successful. I asked him what had made him so successful. And he had a very interesting comment. He said, I return every phone call that I receive
Mm,
the same day if I possibly can, if not the first thing the next morning. Personal contact, returning phone calls. So many agents try to negotiate contracts by text or email. That's not what they're hiring you for. The other great advice I
mm.
got is what's past is prologue. All the things that you've done in your life that have not been perfect, have not been what you wanted necessarily, that's the past. And it's only a direction to the future. So, whatever you've done, if you're not satisfied with where you are, then look forward, not backward.
Mm,
The losses mean nothing in the rearview mirror
mm.
except for what you learned.
Powerful, powerful. And the last question is, what is your personal definition of happiness?
Wow, that's a great question, and it's complex.
Mm, I like complex.
I think in life, it's what you do uh, and the relationships you form and how you help people
Mm,
that is the most important. I've made a lot of money, and at times I've lost money. That's part of playing the game. But I think the relationships, the what you've done to help people, is probably the most important thing because that's the stuff that you carry with you.
mm,
You know, money you spend, you go through life, but I think it's the memories of that time when you helped someone, like Sandy.
mm.
That day when I sat on that sofa with her and didn't sell, I related with her. I understood her problem. I was her friend at that moment, not her agent. That's what you remember.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you.